Hey guys, welcome back to Conscious Conversations with Jessie and Ray. I'm here with Ray's Light in sunny California, and Jessie's there in Brooklyn.
Hello.
Visit her at Jessie Rose. And today we are talking about taking the Course in Miracles and applying it to dating. Hot topic, dating.
Yes.
How do you have a spiritual relationship? Do you need a spiritual relationship? How does it work? So, let's just dive right in.
I know. I feel like this video should be called, like, the subtitle should be, like, Girl Talk, or, like, let's get, like, A Course in Miracles, let's get real.
Exactly.
It's, I will say that for me, there's no better place to apply spiritual principles than in the arena of love. Like, that's what spirituality is about, is this idea of loving another, opening up your heart to another. And so naturally, I feel there is an alignment between spirituality and dating. And I feel that, it's funny, people read a lot of, like, books on dating. Like, there's, like, a lot of dating coaches, and there's all these, like, books, like, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and there, there's all of these rules, like, you go on a date, and you shouldn't call the person for 3 days.
Right.
And I feel like it really, like, as a culture, we've lost our way in terms of, like, applying spiritual ideas to dating. I think they're really transformative. So, have you found any specific tool, Ray, that you've applied to dating, or how have you been applying it? I'm going to throw it to you to start first.
Gee, thanks. Okay, well, in perfect honesty, the course, the way it's gone with me is, for a long time in my life, pretty much my whole life, adult life, high school through college, everything, I was a serial monogamist. I always seemed to have a boyfriend, and then recently, in the last, basically since I moved to LA, I found myself being single because, 1, I wanted to, 2, I'd gone through a hard breakup, 3, I was in a new city and I was just busy, like, learning. And I can say now, I've been single now since November, and we're in almost May. And in this time, it's been the best time I've ever been single. So for me, A Course in Miracles has made my single life so rich and full. And I don't find myself looking for someone, but I'm open to the possibility of someone coming along. But I'm also having a great time learning how to be happy on my own and find happiness and love from within. Because something I realized in meditation, and then was just confirmed in a lesson I was doing in the Course in Miracles, was that you can't give what you don't have. And so if you don't have love for yourself, or that's your own source of love on your own, then you can't possibly give that to somebody else, and you can't expect for them to be your source of love. And so then when you so what I have been experiencing the last few months is really learning how to be my own source of love and to be completely happy on my own. That being said, when I was dating someone recently, when we first started dating, I think what the Course in Miracles helped me with was to approach our first dates really open-mindedly, just getting to know this person, dropping those judgments, letting go of unforgiveness from past relationships and putting them on him. And in the end, I realized that I'd shared a little bit about A Course in Miracles with him and what I was doing with it. And he was not, he didn't stop me or, have any negative opinion about it, but he wasn't interested in it at all for himself. And I realized that I want to be with somebody who is spiritual on some level. And this person maybe will be one day, but isn't in a spiritual place right now and isn't looking for anything in that world of spirituality. And so for me, I just was like, this isn't benefiting me. And so I want to be focused on me right now. So that's where I'm at.
I will say that I can relate to what you said at the beginning about recognizing that you had to love yourself first and not seek outside of yourself. For a long time, I think I had this idea of if I'm in a relationship, then that will make me happy. Like if I'm with someone, then I'm happy. And I think that's a common thought, particularly I would say particularly that women have of I need someone to fulfill me or to complete me. And I think that it's okay to want a partner, to want to share love, but to need it, like to not be happy if you don't have it, or to feel like you're a failure on some level, like you're hanging out with your married friends and you're like, oh, I'm single, I think that was a big shift for me, recognizing like, oh, I could be happy on my own. And if, again, I'm open, like if someone shows up, wonderful. And if someone doesn't show up, wonderful. Like they're not the source of my happiness.
Exactly.
So I felt, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to let that programming go. Like it wasn't easy for me to, it was quite a shift. That's awesome.
So now with you, with Course in Miracles and dating and holy and special relationships, where are you now?
Well, I would say how I am looking at it, or how I'm applying A Course in Miracles really is really looking at myself a lot more than the other person.
I like that.
I think that in society, I think that in our traditional thought system, it's all about look at this other person. Does he have A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Did he do A, B, C, D, E, F, G? And I think when you get on a spiritual path, it's more about looking within myself, because the other person that you're attracted to and that you're manifesting is a mirror of your consciousness. So I think that when I started reading A Course in Miracles and I started on this path, I started seeing, okay, I'm attracting a certain kind of person who is a reflection of myself. And so now I have to look inward. It's not about getting more dates or meeting different people or, it's not about changing my hair color or losing 10 pounds or it's about shifting on the inside. And when you shift on the inside, your external world reflects that. And so I started really meditating and studying and devoting time to my spiritual path and recognizing when fears came up and when I was acting out of my ego. And then my dating world started shifting. Like I started choosing different people. I started, I let go of this idea of the list, like all of these like trivial, like he has to be into hiking and he has, and I started really assessing the person based on character and their soul. And so, I think looking inward and taking that ownership of everyone who comes into my life is a reflection of where my consciousness is. Who I choose is a reflection of my consciousness. How they treat me is a reflection of my consciousness. And again, it's not easy, it's easy to be like, this person, he's a jerk, It's hard to be like, oh, I chose him. Interesting.
Right. What did I need to learn from this experience? Or what can I learn?
Exactly. Like, how is this a blessing? Like, how can I use that experience to further my growth as a human being and become more aligned with love and not just project onto him all of this anger? So much.
One thing I love from the Course is it talks about that everything a person does is either an expression of love or a cry for love.
Yes, a call for love,
so it's like whether it's a dating relationship or any sort of relationship, whether it's with your family or friends, when something happens, the cool thing about the Course is it simplifies your life. Even though the book is really huge and it looks very complicated, it simplifies things because it says, no matter what somebody does, you need to respond with love. But what is the most loving response? Well, that's what you get that answer when you meditate on it. The most loving answer may be to end a relationship, you know, and that's hard, but sometimes that's what's best for both people. So that's a neat thing from the Course in Miracles, is just to go, okay, so this thing that I see that happened and I feel like it was really upsetting, what are they trying to, like, how could I see this as a cry for love or an expression for love, expression of love? And then how can I respond from a place of love? Because I recognize now, as I go through a lot of the meditations and just experiencing life with other people, I'll think an idea will come to my mind, a memory of an argument I got into with like a past boyfriend, and I'll recognize, like, oh my gosh, I see it now. I see that I was coming from a place of like defensiveness and trying to protect myself. And we learned that when you're defending yourself, you're attacking the other person. That's the nature of defense. And so it's been really neat to start to feel less of a need for defense and more of a ability to just be open and search for loving ways to respond.
Yeah, I definitely can relate. And I would say too that, you know, this idea of a call for love is really about, like, it almost like shifts your energy as well, because it's like you understand that it's not personal. Like in the dating world, I think it's very easy to take things as like some form of rejection. Like, oh my God, this person didn't want to go on a fourth date with me. Like, what is it about me? Like, it becomes this, like, you know, this very, it's like your measurement of self-worth is tied somehow to someone else's random thought of you. And I feel like just looking at it as, okay, this was their call for love. However, you know, maybe they expressed anger, or maybe they didn't call you back, or whatever it was. They did something not loving. And so it kind of shifts where you're not angry at them, you know, like, oh, they're probably going through their own stuff. Maybe they have fears about love. Maybe they've been hurt. Maybe someone cheated on them. And so now they're acting kind of shady with me. Like, you don't take it personal because it's all about their experience. You know, I remember distinctly, I was dating someone who, when I met him, my sort of intuitive voice told me, like, he's not looking for a relationship. Like, this guy's probably got like 10 girlfriends. And, you know, he was so handsome and he was so funny. And I was like, no, Jessie, like, you know, don't be judgmental. Give it a go. And of course, we were dating for like a few months, like 3 months into it. He started to like pull away. I got like less and less texts, less and less calls. And I was like, this guy must be just out, you know, having a grand old time. And I was kind of like sad about it. Like, you know, I was like, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to read A Course in Miracles. I'm going to meditate. And after meditating on it, it was like, oh, he has a fear of love. He has a fear of joining. And then what was so interesting, toward the end, I meditated a long time, and I was like, and it's reflective actually of my fear of love. And that's why I picked him. You know, like, I picked the person who didn't want to join, who was unavailable, right? Ego says, seek and do not find. And so when I saw that in myself, I was able to recognize that and say, okay, well, now how can I, again, cultivate within myself that which I feel I want in another? So if I want someone who wants to be in a monogamous relationship, like, how can I not have my own fears? So it's very That's interesting.
Awesome.
Yes.
I love that. There's one more thought that came to mind. You had mentioned earlier, like, should I text him? Should I not? And I feel like the Course has helped me not second guess myself, you know, because I just feel more confident that if I feel compelled to do something, I'm going to do it. And if the person, however the person responds, that's their thing, and it's not mine. And so I never want to not express myself. There was a time where I had met this person right when I met this other person, and I was kind of like, oh, I mean, they're both really nice people. How do I do this? And I kind of stopped talking to one of the people, and I'm not, like, in LA we call it ghosting. I don't know if you guys call it that.
In New York as well.
Yeah, and so I kind of ghosted him, and I'm not a ghoster. Like, I don't like that. But my friends were like, no, he doesn't care. Just ghost him. Like, that's what happens. And I was just like, And so then, inevitably, the very next day after contemplating whether I should text this person or not, I bump into him at this bar, and he comes up to me and he says hi, and I felt so weird. And so I ended up texting him afterwards and said, hey, I don't know if you felt this, but this is what was going on, and here's where I'm coming from, and blah, 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 blah. And just like long text, which most people would be like, no, don't send that. In fact, my friends were like, Rachel, don't send that. I'm Ray and I'm Rachel. Some people call me Rachel, some people call me Ray. So they're like, don't send that. And I was like, no, I had to send it. That's me. That's who I am. And I felt very strongly that I needed to send this long explanation. And he replied and said, thank you so much. In this city, nobody goes to the lengths to explain these types of things. He's like, don't worry at all. And it was like, his response was incredible. And he was just so grateful that he wasn't left wondering. Because how annoying is that to just be like, well, but what the hell happened, you know? So texting and responding and what should I do becomes much clearer when you're just connected and you're just being authentically you.
Yes. And now I have a thought. It's interesting because A Course in Miracles says every fear is fear of loss. And so I'll catch myself. So let's say if I want to send a text and I'm like, should I send this text? Then my follow-up thought is the fear I have about sending the text is about the other person's judgment of me, and I want the other person to like me, and I'm afraid the other person won't like me if I send a text, right? Like, it's all about fear. So, like, if you're just yourself and you're like, okay, I want to text you, I'm going to text you. Like, I don't care if you think it's weird that I'm texting you, because if you think it's weird and you leave, that's okay. So it's about, like, not being afraid that the other person is going to leave and not trying to be something you're not, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, it's like, if you're not being authentically you, you're going to attract somebody who doesn't like you because they don't know you. They're not even given an opportunity to know who you really are because, you know, I've done this where I've walked around living my life in such a way that is what I think society wants me to do or what I think I'm supposed to do, instead of just doing what is me and trusting that, you know what, I have some quirks about me that, you know, are kind of weird. And I used to not embrace those. And then I recognized that, you know what, the person that I want to be with is the person who loves my quirks.
Yes.
And they can't know my quirks unless I let my quirks be. And I feel like the Course has helped me with that whole fear and just finding your true self. So, which, you know, that's imperative for good dating.
Yes, I agree. Beautiful. Awesome. Yay. So should we...
Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Jessie. This looked great.
Awesome.
We will have more topics coming soon. So check out Jessie on her YouTube, and you have a website too. What were those?
Yes, my website, I write articles on the universe, metaphysics, A Course in Miracles. It's called rebelhippiesoul.com.
Love it. And then also your YouTube channel is Jessie Rose.
Jessie Rose, yes.
And then you can find me, like you have, on Ray's Light. So keep tuning in. We'll have more to come.